The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of This Week in the AFL. Alongside Erik Watkins, I am Stephen Earl. I know we took last week off due to the draft because, NFL is always exciting. The NFL draft is always an exciting time of year, but now the draft's over, the rookies have been picked, and we're back talking some arena football because we love football in the summer.
That summers were made for football. None of this refusing to get along and change stuff baseball. Not here.
Yeah, baseball is an exciting sport, but it's not as exciting as arena football. And so we start tonight by talking about I believe it was the first game of the weekend, the Soul and the Brigade. Might be wrong on that. That's where we start first. Yeah, Philadelphia just dominated the whole game, pretty much.
Starting out with a score, then recovering a semi-botched or fumbled kickoff for a touchdown, then getting another score. Yeah, against the defending champs, you're pretty much done at that point.
Yeah, I remember seeing that botched kick that went off the goal post and recovered by the Soul in the end zone. All I could think of was Arenable 29. Same thing happened.
Hey, bar ball. Those of you fans who remember the shock upset Columbus and San Jose from several years ago. Similar circumstances.
Throwback Thursday here on This Week in the AFL. Thinking of Arenable 29 and the game between Columbus and San Jose several years ago. Aside from the Soul dominating the Brigade, there was something pretty bad that actually went down in this game. I didn't see the play. I don't know what happened. But Baltimore receiver Reggie Gray apparently was injured during the game. I'm pretty sure it was early in the game.
It was, if I remember, second quarter?
Around there. And it turns out Reggie Gray broke his collarbone.
Oh!
Now, he is a... I don't know if Erik, you have Instagram or not.
I do have Instagram. I do not follow him on Instagram, though.
Actually, matter of fact, I think it was Erik the one that showed me that he had tweeted out that Richard Gray was actually calling it quits. He announced his retirement as soon as he found out what happened to him.
Yes, because they made the announcement during the game. It's he's apparently tweeted from the locker room, and we don't want to jump to conclusions. So I, having my phone handy, I saw his handle, looked it up, and it's okay, he's saying he's done on his 33rd birthday, and I'm like, it's not a good sign.
It's not a good sign at all, and especially not a good sign for Baltimore. And of course, we do wish Reggie Gray a speedy recovery. And if this is it, wishing the best of luck in his retirement. Now, what I'm wondering is, now it's if you're Baltimore, now what? Where do you go now? Your big guy, your big play, Reggie Gray, is gone. Where do you go from here?
Maybe you can convince, some of those big-time receivers who weren't drafted to the NFL, give them an option, have them play, build up at least a bit of a portfolio so they can maybe get an eye from a CFL team or get into a training camp. There's options out there, thankfully, but somewhat bad timing because you were really just starting to get this chemistry going, and now kaput.
Yeah, it's very, very unfortunate for Shane Carden because now it seems like he has nobody. Or does he? Erik brings up that you could sign someone that was an undrafted free agent from the draft or a free agent in the NFL, whatever. But what I saw from this game was a man named Julian, I believe his last name is Talley. Talley. Sounds like Tally to me. He caught 2 touchdowns against this all-powerful Soul defense. Now, I know it's one game. You can't go off of one game. But that was impressive. I'm going to be looking out for him. Maybe he could be the next guy for Carden.
Maybe, but 2 touchdowns, great individual performance, but as a team, when you only score 28 points, and I've said for the most part that this was going to be a low-scoring season, but still, 4 touchdowns the entire game, it's like, do you want to make him the guy because he had half of that output, or are you looking in a new direction? It's a good, maybe short-term answer, but there's still a lot of long-term questions.
That is true. There could definitely be long-term questions as to where Baltimore goes without big play Reggie Gray. It's a shame. He's one of the biggest names in Arena football. Now his career is... It's not official. We don't know if it's official. We tried asking him. I've reached out. I have not heard from him yet if it's official or not, but we will see this Sunday when the Brigade hosts the Tampa Bay Storm, their first ever home game at the Royal Farms Arena, I believe it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I've only seen the Rofo Arena. I'm like, wait a minute. But yes, that is Sunday at 1 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. Now we switch our attention to the Soul a little bit here. I believe I said this on the season preview show. Ryan McDaniel needs to step up for the Soul. Dan Rodwell has Money Reynolds. He has Sean Konimoku. Ryan McDaniel's wasn't as key as the other guys were last year, and I said he needs to step up big time in this year. And he did exactly that on Sunday. He caught not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 touchdown passes. An amazing performance by Mr. McDaniel.
I mean, you said it best. He was sort of the forgotten receiver in that offense, and really Baltimore's secondary kind of played to that, and Rodaba and Dalzell called a hell of an offensive game plan, saw he was open, got it to him, and you cash in spades.
5 touchdown catches for Ryan McDaniel. It appears he has shown that he is... I mean, we already knew he was one of the big dogs, but now he's getting up there with Money Reynolds, getting with Kalina Moku. And the Soul win this game by a final score, I believe it was 69-28. Just whopping by the Soul to the Brigade. The Brigade are now 1-2 on the season, maybe 1-3.
They have not. I believe they have had their bye week so far.
Yes,
right.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay, so then they would only be 1-2.
1-2. Okay. Okay, so they're 1-2. Eric, do you have any final thoughts on the Soul game against the Brigade?
I mean, again, these are the defending champions, is what they do. And just when I was saying, yes, it's going to be a low-scoring season, yes, it's going to be hard to have teams score 60 points, the Soul are providing yet another example of proving me wrong. Now, granted, Baltimore's defense is still gelling together just a little bit, but if Philadelphia can sustain this form against everyone else, my reasonable prediction may be slightly off, let's just say.
Well, we will see about that. The Soul play the Gladiators in Cleveland this coming Saturday. We'll get to that later in the show. So now we switch over to the other game of the weekend. The Gladiators hosted the Washington Valor. And the Gladiators finally got that first win. They were 0-3. They had started 3 different quarterbacks and couldn't pick up the win. But like we said last week, when they get in their game against Tampa, they actually played well. And against Tampa, they fell behind real fast. Joe Hills had 3 touchdown catches. Against Baltimore, they couldn't capitalize off turnovers. And against Tampa, they blew a 20-point lead. Here against the Valor, I believe you could say Arvon Nelson was the hero for this game. To me, it was the defense, because they shut out Washington 20-0 at one point.
20-0, not to mention it was another, what we've become accustomed to this season, first half dogfights where for the longest time it was like 7-7, and deep into the second quarter it was 14-7. Arvell Nelson stepped up and did his best, but credit to defenses on both sides, especially Cleveland, where how they were able to consistently get in Eric Meyer's face, collect a couple of sacks. I said, don't hit the panic button just yet. this could be the start of that turnaround.
It could be, and obviously that has a lot to do with Harbaugh Nelson being their starting quarterback now. I'm still baffled that they cut him week 1 of training camp after he was a Nick DeVilla team away from reaching a rebuild 29. It baffles me, but he is back with the Gladiators. Starting quarterback, they got their first win. And I believe this is also the first game for wide receiver Brandon Tompkins. He played with the Orlando Predator last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe this is his first game of the year. He had some type of injury, he missed the first 3 games.
Yes.
And I was thinking, before this game, I was like, I want him to do something well. I want him to do great. And what did he do? Yeah, he did okay. He caught 15 catches for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. In arena football, that's okay. I was looking for a little bit more from him.
Oh, whoa! That's okay.
From what I've seen, that's okay.
I mean, okay, 2 touchdowns. If you isolate that stat, that's okay. You expect your elite receivers to get 3, 4, maybe even 5. But even still, 15 catches for 158, those are primary type numbers we're looking at here. To me, he did better than okay. He just had a little bit of bad luck in not finding the end zone more often, but I can't take away from what he did.
I guess maybe it's more than the fact that I remember him doing so well on special teams as well. Maybe that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I remember last year he did pretty well on special teams with the Predators.
And he did. The Predators used him as that dual weapon, and I don't think he's up to that level just yet, especially fresh off of coming back from an injury. But you give him another 2 weeks, maybe 3 at the most, you'll see him returning kicks and taking a couple to the house again. He's still there. It just takes time to him to get fully back to his old self.
Possibly so. I do hope to see more from him, especially again this weekend when the Gladiators host the Soul. That's going to be a big thing to watch. But we get to that later in the show. In about 6 minutes from now, Washington Valor wide receiver Mike Washington joins us. Let's stick with the Valor for a second, because they started 1-0, and then they had a 14-0 over the Soul. Since then, nothing. What do you, Erik, feel is wrong with Valor Washington right now?
Well, I think this is showing a little bit about both of the expansion teams. They had the opening win against Baltimore, winning the Beltway SmackDown, and they got, you could say, a teeny bit overconfident because while Baltimore is a capable team, they're a very young team, very fresh, put-together team. So you're expected to get a good win against a team like that. Now you're facing what's really the more holdover, higher end of the talent, and that chemistry isn't quite there. You don't have the same amount of reps, the same amount of time like a Cleveland has been together, certainly like Philadelphia has been together. So they were kind of on a curve that opening week of the season, but now it's hitting them to where they've got a lot they have to learn together and how to win in this league.
So you feel this might be a chemistry issue with the team?
A mixture, more chemistry than talent, because the talent is there.
Oh, yes.
But they're not fully up to even their potential yet. So if you ask chemistry, teeny bit potential, especially along that offensive line, if they gel, everything else around them will start to fall into place.
Okay, maybe. I believe the Valor are on their bye week this week, if I'm not mistaken. Especially we get the break-in storm. Yep, they are on their bye week this week, so maybe the team will get together, look at the film, maybe go out to dinner. I know a lot of teams do that. They go out to dinner together. We shall see. Any closing thoughts? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the dinner tab, at least it won't be as big as you've seen for some of the NFL teams, so that's going to be a relief.
That's true. Any closing thoughts on Gladiators Valor before we go to commercial and then welcome in Mike Washington?
Cleveland, they're finally starting to do it right, and Arvell Nelson can run. 43-yard scamper for a touchdown. This is the kind of spark that they needed, so keep an eye out for Cleveland.
As I've been hearing since, I want to say March, when we started our previews and everything, in a 5-man league, anything can happen. In a 5-team league, anything can happen. But anyway, coming up next, Mike Washington of the Washington Valor will join us. He wrote a book. I've been wanting to ask him about this book for a long time, and the time has come. So Mike Washington will join us on the other side. You were listening to This Week in the AFL.
Hello to all you Arena League football fans out there. I want to personally welcome you to join us, AFL Fan Zone, every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time for a weekly recap of all things AFL. You got stuff to do on the weekends, which means you probably don't have time to sit down and watch every single game every week. That's where AFL Fan Zone comes in. Not only do we break down the week, but we provide you with everything you need to stay up to date with the AFL, including Players of the Week, Power Rankings, and the weekly standings. Best part is, the recap is fully interactive between the viewers and the host. Just search AFL Fan Zone on YouTube and you can find all of our archived videos, including game previews, recaps, and weekly updates. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and at our website at www.aflfanzone.com. AFL Fan Zone, your internet home for the best AFL fans.
Hi, I'm Donovan James, and welcome to the Don James High School Football Report, everybody, where we discuss and debate the hottest prep and college football recruiting topics in the country every week. Only here on NGSC Sports, 9:30 Eastern. For more, follow me on Twitter at Don James Sports.
It's game time, boys, and we know football. Football the Max is the podcast for you if you want in-depth analysis over the NFL and college football. We preview all the action coming your way over the weekend. And we break down all the big action after it's happened. Plus, we tackle all the big news topics and discuss everything when it comes to the gridiron. So come check out Football to the Max every Tuesday morning and Friday morning on the W2M network.
Are you an arena football fan looking for the latest news involving your team? Inside the Arena has you covered. Check us out for the latest news around both the Arena Football League and the Chinese Arena Football League. Read all of our stellar articles at InsideTheArena.org. Also, follow us on Twitter at Inside_Arena and like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/InsideTheArena.
Welcome back to This Week in the AFL alongside Erik Watkins. I'm Stephen Err. And now we welcome our guest, Washington Valor receiver Mike Washington. How are you doing tonight, Mr. Washington?
I'm doing great. Just take care of some little injuries and nagging pain, and we on bye week right now, so you just recuperating and regrouping and get ready for Tampa next week.
Awesome. So I've been wanting to ask you this since the CAFL season because I know you wrote a book called Beyond the Wall, I believe it was called.
Correct.
So I wanted to ask you, what is that? What is that book mainly about? Tell us about the book.
So Beyond the Wall, my life in the Arena Football League. I started writing this. It took me about like 16, 17 months to complete, but I started writing in 2015 when I tore my Achilles and I was with the Spokane Shock, formerly of the AFL. So I tore my Achilles and I was in limbo, and I was deciding whether I wanted to continue to play football or venture out in other opportunities that was presented my way. Decided to stay. I decided during that time, to write a book, explain my story. And since there wasn't no books mainstream wise as far as to the public, it was another book out there. I forgot the author name, but it wasn't. It talked about, how he was a walk-on, he played like 3 games and, his experience in the Arena League rather than like, where's it at now? So I decided to write my story, tell my story, and also bring light to the public of what arena football is about. And, it's this game in the dark that's been playing for years now. And, hopefully, some public attention can bring it to the forefront, and get this thing back to where it was back in the old days.
And I wanted to kind of ask you, kind of following up on that, you could say it's somewhat convenient timing because of your injury and taking a look at the situation, and I'm sure you covered this in your book, but where do you feel, especially with all the chaos and the drama, as you say yourself, Spokane leaving the AFL, how do you feel the league has been over these past 2-3 seasons, especially compared to what it was leading up to it?
Right. My personal feel is I'm kind of I don't keep my expectations up or below. I just keep them kind of neutral because since the AFL came back during after the 2010 lockout, they came back with this single entity model rather than the franchise model like every other professional sports club uses. So they came with this single entity model where the league controls everything and they mandate stuff. And since the inception of that model, there has been teams jumping out of the AFL rather than teams coming in. I think when I started my rookie year, we had a total of maybe 15 teams. Now we're down to 5 teams. So that's like 2 teams a season leaving. So I'm like, what is the cause of that? Like, what is the root cause of that? And I started doing some researching and, joining the union, learning from the union board members and some of the veteran guys who played back in the AFL who was, making those 2-year, $90,000 contracts and things of that nature, Garcia and T.T. Tyler, guys who played back in the day when the AFL was glorious. So, and I was like, for this to be considered professional football, it doesn't really seems professional, as far as like, and now each team is different, but as far as like notoriety, contract wise, player support, players marketing, like it's no market value here. So, I started to dig deep into that, and one of them was the reason why. So, but in today's arena game, it's obviously it changed with some owners, and now we only got 5 teams, and the owners now are freaking billionaires, and they own their own arena. So that's where it seems like they're headed. And they get owners who own arena. So when AFL teams don't pack out, they still can make up from the Cavs game, make up from the Tampa Lightning game. Make up from the Wizards, Caps game, the hockey games, or whatever. So, and it seems like that's the model they're trying to follow, but it's still this single entity model. But we'll see where things take forward after the season because the CBA is up, and you can't play a football game without the CBA. So we go into talks with that in September. So it'd be interesting to see if we're going to still stick with this model or improve it or go back to the franchise model where it was predominant, because that model worked for 25 years. Like that's when AFL was on ESPN, and that's when I first got hooked to it. Because I remember when I was in college my freshman year, and former Hawaii Warrior receiver Chad Owens, who is now a star in the CFL, I remember watching him playing for the Colorado Crush, and I was like, "Holy crap! Like, what is this game?" And so that's when I first got hit to the AFL. It's a lot of talks, things going to be improving. And like I said, the talks have been all positive since 2011, but you always see the negative results of it. And the negative results is you have some of your premier veterans who leave or retire and because it's not financially fit, or, teams are just dropping. So, you hope for the best, but at the same time, all you've been given is, all you've been seeing is bad results. So I just kind of keep my expectations neutral. If it happens, it happens. If not, it won't be a surprise. So that's where I'm sitting at right now.
That's a very interesting take. Now, I know that has me asking one question followed by another one. I've a lot of I don't know, as owner of InsideTheArena.org, I'm a part of a lot of indoor football Facebook groups, and every time I post an article from Erik or from Dylan Goldman or Chase Risman or whoever, all everybody says is the league is dying. There's only 5 teams. Mike Washington, do you believe the AFL is dying, or do you believe this is the start of something new?
No, it's the start of something new. It's not dying. Obviously, it's still around. It's not dying. Now, of course, things always, the day is always, just as dark before the sunrise. So this is probably the lowest it has been with only 5 teams. And so it looks shaky from the outside, but just from the new direction they have been going for the last, I said, year and a half or 2 years, it looks like it's on the up and up, but it only looks like it's on the up and up. We won't really know until it actually follows through. So AFL is not dead; it's still around. So I advise the fans and people out there just get involved. If you're involved, spread the word, and hopefully get a bigger fan base than what it is now.
All right. So my follow-up question is: us at Inside the Arena, I like to personally believe, if you want to have a successful arena football franchise, like you mentioned this before, you have to have a big-time leader. Like the Cavs have the Gladiators have Dan Gilbert owning them, and Derek Brooks owns the Lightning, and Jaws owns the Soul. Not the Lightning, the Storm. Getting my sports mixed up. And Jaws owns the Soul. If you could think of one owner for one team in one city, which city would you like to see a new team in next year?
Quite frankly, I would like to see it. I would like to see a new team to be in Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh is a city. It's a football city, and and I was part of the inception when Pittsburgh Power was part of the new team, and the city was well received with football. They always say Pittsburgh is a football city with a drinking problem, and it seems to be true, because I'm from there with the high school there in Aliquippa, and and I was just heartbroken when they folded, but that was just a bad job as far as ownership and marketing, and they were doing other things. But I personally like to see Pittsburgh, and I'd like to see Arizona come back too. Obviously, doing well and great success in the IFL, but Arizona, and especially San Jose, was those two staple teams that everybody recognized and knew, because they was always in the championship, always in the big game. They do a good job marketing and all those things. So, but personally, I'd like to see my hometown Pittsburgh coming back around.
Now, kind of going back, because you love bringing me back to the glory days, because I too watched those Colorado teams, especially with John Dutton just chucking up and down the field.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to, and I think an interesting point, you mentioned how for the longest time the AFL operated on the franchise model.
Correct.
And all of our other major sports, except for Major League Soccer, they do that. MLS and AFL operate on a single entity. Mm-hmm. Do you think now that through all the rumors about just clearing out what were supposedly some bad seeds in ownership, and as you said yourself, starting with something new, do you think that this would be an appealing time to get the new owners if the league switches to a franchise model, or should they give this single entity a little more time to flesh out?
I think, with the franchise model, if they go into a different model than the single entity model now and go back to the franchise model, I think you'll see more of the premier owners come back into the league, if not, or get some that own these teams. Because if you look at it back in the franchise model days, you had Jerry Jones on the team, Pat Bowen on the team, you had the Saints on the team. You had all these NFL owners who already had predominantly franchises owning the AFL team as well. So, and that creates a direct pipeline for athletes if they wanted to, they need a practice squad player, somebody to sign to their roster. They have direct access because you own another football team. So I think you'll see more owners coming out on the team if you go that route, because when the AFL introduced the single entity route, that's when you saw the Jerry Jones and all them guys who jumped ship, because it just didn't make sense business wise, and that's why the LA Avengers left too, and the New York Firebirds. So, so we've been giving this single entity model a chance since 2011, and we have issues with the former commissioner Kurz. They had to weed him out, and then now you got this new commissioner who try to weed all the owners out who's couldn't go, I guess, with this new wave, and which new wave is, they owners got to have, own the arena. So, whatever they don't make up, I guess, in the AFL seating, they can make up in the Caps game or the Lightning game, or, whatever Cleveland Gladiators don't make up. Of course, LeBron's going to sell out, especially when you go deep into the playoffs. So that's the new wave I've seen. It seems like they're going to. But it had to, like I said, man, we'll have to sit down and talk as far as like the players and the owners to see, what direction would they like this thing to go. Now, granted, the players would like it to go back to the old days, when you was on TV and you got a market value, because here in the AFL with the single entity model, it doesn't, like, personally, I really don't get too excited on personal accolades like, player of the week, MVP of the Arena Bowl, or whatever the accolades are, because, you can't use those accolades to vie for like a new contract as opposed to like the NFL or the Major League. Like, Von Miller, if I'm leading the league in sacks and got a Super Bowl MVP, that's a contract, big contract next year. You know what I'm saying? So here in the AFL, you don't have that option, man. Everybody gets paid the same, and it's across the board, and you got to self-promote and self-market yourself because, certain the league's definitely not going to do it, and certain franchises, depending on where you at or how well received the market is, they'll go out their way if that, but that's kind of pushing it. So we'll see. Hopefully it can get back to the glory days, but we're not going to live in the past, so we're going to move forward, and hopefully this new wave or this new wave that the league and the ownership's trying to go towards, it'd be beneficial across all boards for players and the owners, and also the fans too, because the fans is a big part of this game.
Right, and I kind of want to have a follow-up question, because you bring up some interesting points about how the players would feel marketing value, especially with the old fairly good pipeline from AFL to CFL, AFL to NFL, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
With the CBA talks coming up in a few months, has there been at least any preliminary communication about how the league feels about the single entity versus how, as you had mentioned, players would love going back to the old days where the AFL was on a much larger stage? Because for the single entity model, there are benefits. I mentioned MLS previously. They work just about exclusively in a single entity model, and while it's gone some speed bumps early in their history, you look 5, 10, and now 20 years out, it's been phenomenal, and they're taking off. Have the owners communicated to where this is kind of how their approach is, or has there just been radio silence?
Oh, it's definitely been radio silence. As a union rep for the team, like we haven't got any communications, or I haven't heard anything for the owner side. Now, as far as like players, and we'll meet with our union board leader reps, and discuss things to bring to the table, or if players got certain grievances and things like that. But nothing has been discussed as far as like ways for the next future. None of that. I haven't got that information. Maybe somebody else or the union board members, but I haven't got that information. So yeah. So I don't know. Well, things could change. Once the season over with, and talks. We could come to the table for talks. So looking excited for that.
Mike Washington Valor wide receiver, joining us. So yeah, a lot of things are going to happen in September with the CBA talks, but right now let's stick to the Valor. And Erik and I were talking about the Valor before we went on break to welcome you in. You guys, at one point, you beat the Brigade, and then you were up 14-0 on Philadelphia, and then since then, it's just, I don't know. It's been different. Do you like, you guys are 1-2 right now? Do you feel like something's changed?
Nah, I mean, it's new team, new franchise, man. The players is learning to play with each other. The coaches is learning to coach for each other. But AFL is all about execution. Like every team runs the same plays on defense. Every team runs the same plays on offense. I mean, we run 30 cell, Philly's gonna run 30 cell. We run 50 corner, Cleveland's gonna run a 50 corner. It's just all about execution. And then the coach's only job is to put us in the best position to make those plays. But ultimately we go out there and have to make the plays. But the last two games always been, we always started lethargic in the second half. And, I think that just stemmed from, just getting a rhythm with each other. Because you understand, we had a game, and we had a bye week, and then we had 2 games, and now we're on the bye week. So that takes out, that messes up your rhythm in a sense. So But arena is a marathon, not a sprint, and it just all matter. It's just all matter when it clicks, and but nothing outside. I mean, players been working hard, coaches been working hard. The fan base here is great, so it's still early in the season, so there's no need to panic. I know a new franchise, the expectations build up, so you promoting this, and next thing you know, we done lost 2 games straight. Now there's no need to hit the red button. So it's a long game, it's a long season. And things would click at the right time, and just like I think like 2 or 3 years ago when Jacksonville started off like 0-6, next thing you know they playing in the Arena Bowl or something, they go deep in the playoffs. So that's arena football for you.
Yeah, I covered that season quite extensively. Yeah, but. And one thing that I noticed with that team, and I kind of wanted to ask about the Valor, especially since you mentioned a rhythm. The first part of that Sharks season, I noticed, and all the players, when I got to interview them, said the same thing. It's chemistry, building together, playing together, getting those reps together. Now, with how this season is scheduled, with the bye weeks and everything going on, you mentioned lack of getting a rhythm together. Has that rhythm affected any kind of chemistry issues on that front? Or
I'll say as far as like players who's getting coached on new technique or learning how to do things different from places they've been going, or but from a receiver to quarterback standpoint, that's just extra reps after practice, and like getting early in the arena and working on certain things like that. But it's different when you bring it all together, and you got the pads on the game and the lights and things of that nature. So, but as long as you got that, it's that chemistry and it's timing, because it can be times where, you mess up on a route, but you end up in the same area, and and Meyer, he'll throw the ball because he trusts you to be in that area. So, those things that you can't really coach. It's just a feel. It's just a feel, and you'll know when you know. And so that's the only, it's arena football, man. And it's just, once you get that rhythm back, it's, it just clicks. It's not about it's not about practicing longer. It's not about, you lose, you got to change up the way you eat, or like, the way you go about your day, or, or you listen to rock music before the game. Now I'm gonna listen to jazz music before the game. It has nothing to do with that. It's just a rhythm, man. As long as you stay committed, stay determined, stay ready, things would just click. That's how football is, man. It's just a rhythm like that. And besides, in the arena, we don't have preseason games to get that rhythm, to get that time, and to get that full chemistry. So usually, like the first 2, sometimes 3 games, it's like a chess game. It's give and take. So, so usually around like the 5th, 6th game, things usually click, and you get your offense rolling, get your defense rolling, and everybody's on the same page. You can gamble a little bit. So that's how things fly.
Mike Washington Valor wide receiver. They got a big game coming up next week against Tampa Bay Storm. If you have not checked out his book Beyond the Wall yet, what are you waiting for? Go out and buy it. Where can we find this book, Mr. Washington? I want to go ahead and buy it.
You can go on my website, teamjoystick.com, click on the image, and PayPal, or you can check out through the website. But yeah, it's on there. I do all the self-promoting, self-marketing, and, shipping myself. So, I get a book, learn about the Arena Football League in my life, and, how I got to this point. And it's a fun game, man. Learn a little bit about how arenas operate, the business of it, and how fun it is. Because, hopefully in the future, this thing would take off. And it's not for me, but the generations that come, after me and stuff, man, you can lay a brick, lay a foundation for them to step on top and lay their own. So, yeah.
So there you have it. TeamJoystick.com. Check out his book, Beyond the Wall. Good luck next week against Tampa. The big matchup there, and I hope you enjoy your bye week. Thanks for joining us.
Guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Erik and I will be back to preview week 5 we're coming up on the other side. You were listening to This Week in the AFL.
Hello to all you Arena League football fans out there. I want to personally welcome you to join us, AFL Fan Zone, every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time for a weekly recap of all things AFL. You got stuff to do on the weekends, which means you probably don't have time to sit down and watch every single game every week. That's where AFL Fan Zone comes in. Not only do we break down the week, but we provide you with everything you need to stay up to date with the AFL, including Players of the Week, Power Rankings, and the weekly standings. Best part is, the recap is fully interactive between the viewers and the host. Just search AFL Fan Zone on YouTube and you can find all of our archived videos, including game previews, recaps, and weekly updates. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and at our website at www.aflfanzone.com. AFL Fan Zone, your internet home for the best AFL fans.
Hi, I'm Donovan James, and welcome to the Don James High School Football Report, everybody, where we discuss and debate the hottest prep and college football recruiting topics in the country every week. Only here on NGSC Sports, 9:30 Eastern. For more, follow me on Twitter at Don James Sports.
It's game time, boys, and we know football. Football to the Max is the podcast for you if you want in-depth analysis over the NFL and college football. We preview all the action coming your way over the weekend. And we break down all the big action after it's happened. Plus, we tackle all the big news topics and discuss everything when it comes to the gridiron. So come check out Football to the Max every Tuesday morning and Friday morning on the W2M network.
Are you an arena football fan looking for the latest news involving your team? Inside the Arena has you covered. Check us out for the latest news around both the Arena Football League and the Chinese Arena Football League. Read all of our stellar articles at InsideTheArena.org. Also, follow us on Twitter at Inside_Arena and like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/InsideTheArena.
Welcome back to This Week in the AFL alongside Erik Watkins. I'm Stephen Erik. Great interview by Valor Mike Washington. We want to thank him for coming on and joining us. Hope he enjoys his bye week. Valor Storm next week. I'm pretty sure that game will be in Washington, but I could be wrong on that. But we move on anyway. Week 5 is ahead of us, and it's about time the Baltimore Brigade get to host a home game at the Royal Farms Arena in downtown Baltimore. And what other team to do it against the Tampa Bay Storm?
Well, and this is the big thing, and I will say for Baltimore, this is their last of their first big moments. First home game, you got what could potentially be a franchise quarterback, although now unfortunately missing the franchise wide receiver. That took a little bit of oomph out of this one, but let's see the Royal Farms Arena crowd. After all, they're used to championship teams, especially their arena soccer team, Baltimore Blast, back-to-back titles, so they're used to seeing good products, and they're going to give them time. They're going to show up, but it's going to be up to the Brigade. Keep that winning tradition.
Yeah, it's going to be a very tough matchup for the Brigade against the Storm because the Storm have, I believe, maybe the first, maybe about top 2 defense, obviously. That defensive line rips through all offensive lines that I've seen. And all these quarterbacks they played, Arvell Nelson, Tanner Marsh, I believe they played. Or no, it was Shane Boyd, week 1 they played. And even Dan Radeball. Turnovers, pressure, that defense is scary. The Tampa defense is scary. Shane Carden's going to have a rough time if he doesn't, especially like you said, no Reggie Gray. He's going to have a really rough time against the Storm defense.
Expect him to do a lot of running.
Oh, yes.
He's shown that he's got some good scrambling capabilities and can make plays from outside of the pocket, but can he do that for a full 60 minutes? Because Tampa Bay, the way they built that defense, they're a team that loves to tee off. If they can, they will, and they will do so repeatedly, just to give their secondary an easier game. So if he's to the point to where he can be contained, it might be another repeat performance for the Brigade, unfortunately.
Not only does Shane Carden have to find his new receiver, which I'm not expecting it to be Julian Talley, but that's the one guy I'll be looking out for it to be his next target now that Reggie Gray is gone. But then there's the other side of the ball. I don't believe in that Baltimore defense that much, and now they have to go up against Randy Hippert and Joe Hills. And it doesn't get any harder than that.
Absolutely not. And you look at just the receiving core that Tampa Bay has. I mean, Varmasoni, who are they going to match him up against? Are they going to have him against Ings and keep him more against the motion man? Or are they going to put him against Joe Hills himself? And once they make that decision, Tampa Bay is going to be like, okay, he's going to be shut down. We need to focus on these two guys. And they have the luxury to where they can do that. And then once they do focus on someone, whoever is the essentially odd man out, come third, fourth quarter, he'll be able to get open more. So it's going to be an interesting take on how Baltimore schematically decides who they're going to try to shut down and how long they can shut them down for.
Yeah, I mean, you said it yourself. Tampa Bay has off the top of my head, I can think of a trio of receivers that Baltimore's going to have to stop. They have Joe Hills.
Mm-hmm.
You said Kendrick Ings, who's also, based on what I've seen against Philadelphia, he's also dangerous on that special teams. So when they kick the ball off, you're going to have to want to cover him like glue on paper or something along those lines.
I'll have to get you to work on that one a little bit, but yeah, the idea is there, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it'd be a lot better time for Baltimore's defense if Tampa Bay's got to go 45, 48, 49 yards instead of 25 or 30.
Yeah, and there's another guy that I like from Tampa, Lamarck Brown. Another great receiver. I like what he's been doing. And that just poses yet another threat for Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, he's really had something of a coming out party. He, especially when Hills had one of his more quieter games, Lamarck Brown, he turned into Hippert's number one target. So now you have, as you said, potentially 3 number one caliber receivers. And that, if you don't have 3 number one caliber DBs to go against, you're going to have a rough night.
Yeah, all in all, when it's all said and done with this game, I've been looking forward to this game ever since the season started. Yeah, when I first saw the picture of the Brigade field at Royal Farmers Arena in Baltimore, I was like, so beautiful, because it looks really good. But the one problem there is that compared to the Verizon Center and the Wells Fargo Center, it's a small arena. It's not going to be packed like it would be for the Valor game or the Soul game or a Storm game even at the Mahle Arena. It's going to be a blowout loss for Baltimore. I just don't feel like I think Tampa Bay's going to be all over them, and they're not going to be able to stop Tampa at all. I just don't feel like it.
No, and what's going to make things from bad to worse is that Tampa's had 2 weeks to prepare, and the fact that they've been able to prepare even better defensively knowing that Reggie Gray's out. Now, I don't know how much they're going to be able to score, if they're going to be able to match Philly hanging up almost 70, but they can come close.
The one thing I look for, I'm not looking forward to it, but I see this happening. Shane Carden gets sacked at least 6 times.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'd say it's probably in the 3 to 5 range. They're going to get to him, but if things are really bad, I don't know if Omar Smith is going to keep him in long enough to even take so many hits. So if things get that bad, early fourth quarter, you might see a quarterback change.
Well, if they start Chase Cartwright, then that's I don't even have words for that. If they do start Chase Cartwright,
Oh no, they're not going to start him.
not
Things
start.
aren't that bad, but
bench Carton for Cartwright. That would be something. I wouldn't go there. I would stay. I would keep with Carton, and hopefully him and Julian Talley can build chemistry, or some receiver outside of Reggie can build chemistry, and they can make it work somehow. But anyway, closing thoughts on Brigade Storm.
it's going to be fun to watch. Especially, it could be very interesting as a neutral. But if you're a Brigade fan, enjoy the moment before the game because you might not have so swell feelings afterwards.
I feel the same way. I'm going to be watching, of course, Sunday at 1, special time for CUS Sports Network. Brigade and the Storm at the Royal Farms Arena in downtown Baltimore. But before that game, Saturday night, 7 o'clock on AFL. I'm going to be watching on AFLLive.com from the ReFootball Facebook page. The Cleveland Gladiators will host the Philadelphia Soul. This is obviously the biggest rivalry in arena football because these two teams go back. They have played excellent games over the past few years. And when the season started and we saw Shane Boyd was starting, and I was thinking to myself, maybe it's not going to be as exciting, but now that things have changed, we are in for a great game on Saturday night.
Arvell Nelson, I honestly think, has been waiting for this game because he's shown what he can do against just about everybody, and now that he's got another opportunity in his young career to show what he can do against the best team, this is what he has prepared for. This is what the team has prepared for, and Cleveland is going to just be extremely, extremely motivated. And they're going to give the Soul a run. Huge run.
Yeah, and the reason that I feel this game is going to be much more anticipated than it was after week 1. Of course, when week 1, and I didn't know when the Gladiators were going to play the Soul exactly. I did have the schedule on my phone, but I didn't actually check whatever. It was because I was thinking Shane Boyd was going to be starting quarterback over the course of the season because there was no Arvell Nelson in week 1. Now that Arvell Nelson's starting, totally different ball game. You got Arvell Nelson against Dan Radaball, Colin Taylor against Sean Kalina-Moku, and Quentin Sims. He has great 6 touchdown performance against Tampa week 2. Or week 3, whatever it was, week 3, against Ryan McDaniel and Darius Medal. This is going to be offensive powerhouse.
Yeah, not to mention
defense in this game.
Not to mention you're going to have Brandon Tompkins into the mix. So
yes,
it's not just going to be defense. Given his individual capability and given the Soul's capability as a team, special teams are really what's going to decide this. Because this is going to be just the biggest game of field position and extra possessions. Because you're going to want teams to try to get 2-3 extra possessions somehow, have short fields as they can, to have their offenses really do the job. Whoever wins that battle is going to win this game. So this is going to be one of those very rare but very intense 3-phase games this season.
So you feel the winner of this game will be based on offense?
In part offense, but special teams the most. Because if someone gets a kick return for a touchdown, they get a bar ball, they successfully get an onside kick to, as I said, steal a possession. The offenses are going to, for the most part, be capable of canceling each other out. It's just how will the special teams set up the offense to get more opportunities.
Okay, that's interesting to take. Special teams deciding a game. I feel like this game is going to be based on defense because, again, two of the best offenses in the league going up against one another. Whichever defense slows down the other offense, that's the one that's going to win the game. And for me, it's obviously got to be Philadelphia. Philadelphia has the best defense in the league. They have Torres Jones, Dwayne Hollis. I forget the other guy's name. James Romaine. I feel like the Soul have the upper hand in this game against Cleveland. It's going to be close, but I do have the Soul winning.
Don't entirely sleep on Cleveland's defense, but personally, I smell a little bit of an upset in this one. I think it's probably going to come down to the last minute, maybe the last 2-3 plays, but I think the Gladiators can steal this one.
I'll be looking for that now, Eric. I'll remember this when I'm watching the game Saturday night. I'm saying, Eric wants an upset. Let's see if the Gladiators can make it happen.
I'm calling it. I'm rooting for it because you've already had the bits of craziness and quirkiness this season. This would be the last gem. Can we get the first big time upset? Now, the opportunity's ripe.
It sure is. It is. Even with these high-powered offenses, based on what we see in the beginning of the season to now, this would definitely be. I would consider it upset for sure. So, any closing thoughts on Gladiator Soul?
I said that this would be the series to watch throughout the course of the season to see, are Cleveland Arena Bowl capable? This is game one.
It's on from here, Cleveland. Beat the Soul, and you've shown us you're back in it. So that'll do it from here for this week in the AFL. We want to thank Mike Washington for joining us again. He was awesome to have on. Thank you, Eric. Thank you to Sean for producing this podcast. Alongside Eric, I'm Stephen Err. Enjoy week 5. We'll be back next week with another guest, who everybody, fan favorite as they call him, for more Arena football talk. Until then, good night.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.